This morning, an unexpected explosion rocked a deserted island in the Pacific. The newscaster's solemn voice droned from the TV mounted on the hospital wall. Rumor has it, the blast erupted from an underground laboratory hidden there, leaving no survivors. According to our sources, the infamous ace assassin Victoria perished in the accident. In a bland hospital room in Mapleville, a pale-faced girl with heavy bandages around her head lay trembling on the bed. Suddenly, the door slammed open with a bang. A sharp-tongued, poorly dressed, middle-aged woman stormed in, every line of her face set in anger. Without hesitation, she launched herself at the two people at the foot of the bed. "What have you done to my daughter? I asked the school to watch over her, not land her in the hospital with a concussion. Anything a few $1,000s can calm me down." Her voice only rose in fury. "Listen here, if you don't give me a real explanation today, I'll march right into your school tomorrow and tear your reputation to shreds." The principal quickly flicked off the TV where Victoria's reported death lingered in the air, plastering on a conciliatory smile. "Mrs. Ricardo, please. We talked about Valentina's accident on the phone. It really was just an accident. She tripped and fell down the stairs. We've spared no effort." "That's your idea of doing everything?" The woman's voice was a drawn wire. "A few $1,000s for my daughter's injury? This happened at your school. You hold full responsibility." "Mrs. Ricardo," snapped the homeroom teacher, irritation leaking past her composure. "Valentina's about to graduate. She's not a child anymore, and it was her own carelessness. She's responsible for herself." The tirade didn't stop. Besides, Valentina's consistently had the lowest grades and refuses to focus in class, distracting the other students. She's caused a lot of disruption. Some of her classmates allege she's been getting involved in secret relationships and harassing boys, even leading their parents to intervene. "Instead of raising a fuss," the teacher finished, "maybe you should focus on teaching your daughter some self-control." "You." Selena Ricardo planted her fists on her hips, her eyes blazing. "That's your excuse for an attitude? Unbelievable." "We?" The principal started, half pleading. Enough. The argument was carved clean by a single, frosty voice. Silence crashed into the room as every head turned to the hospital bed. The girl sitting up now was pale, round, her figure nearly buried in the sheets. Holding her head, Victoria wrinkled herself upright, the bed protesting under her weight. Her brows knotted as she surveyed the strangers before her. "Where am I? Should I be dead?" Snapshots of memory blazed behind her eyes, slashing the head off the doctor as she escaped the laboratory, single-handedly mowing down a dozen armed men when they tried to activate the chip in her skull. She should have died in the explosion. Yet here she was, waking up in a hospital. Victoria glanced down at the fingers clutching the bedding, delicate and adorned with pink polish, then further to a body not her own. Plump curves, a round belly. "This isn't my body." Realization set in. Was she alive again? Had she actually been reborn? How interesting. Even as a child, she'd known nothing but the brutality of the Shadow, the world's most feared assassin organization. Taken in as an infant, trained without mercy, she crushed the assassin rankings by the age of 17, and no one ever overtook her. That notoriety drove the Shadow into greed and madness. To expand their legacy, they dragged Victoria into some secret laboratory and used her embryonic tissue to breed lethal soldier after soldier. When she'd grown too formidable to control, they tried to silence her for good. That was her reward after a lifetime spent under their thumb. If only she'd struck out on her own, built her own power instead. A cheery voice broke in. "Valentina, you're awake!" the headmaster cried, forced delight painting his tone. Victoria raised her head and studied him, brow furrowing. "Who are you?" The room froze cold and awkward. Inside, Selena swelled with distress, turning to the principal and pounding his arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You see, she doesn't even recognize us. My daughter's memories are gone. I'll go bankrupt paying her medical bills." She sobbed harder, clutching at her chest. "She's my only hope. If anything happens, I don't want to live either." The homeroom teacher grew rattled. "Mrs. Ricardo, please take a breath." How can I possibly calm down? My daughter's brain is damaged, and now you want me to just be quiet?" Selena's wails echoing off every corner of the ward made Victoria's temples pound. A headache split through her, and unfamiliar memories jammed forcefully through her skull. She snarled, a sound that silenced the room, and pointed at the door. "Out. All of you, out. Now." Hastily, the headmaster forced a smile as he tried to usher everybody away from the hospital bed. "We'll, give Valentina some space. Mrs. Ricardo, you'd let her get some rest." Doors clicked shut, and at last, quiet washed over the room. Victoria let out a tortured breath, rose shakily, and shuffled to the small washroom. Cold water surged over her face. In the mirror, a strange girl stared back, ivory skin, round cheeks, beautiful eyes trapped in a body far heavier than the one Victoria had known. At least looks could be improved. She stared for a long moment. Softly, she shaped the name around her tongue. Valentina Ricardo. The truth was plain. From now on, she would live as Valentina. She was certain, after all, her new form couldn't be a coincidence. Yet standing left her exhausted, her legs trembling, the world gray around the edges. Impossibly weak, dangerously out of shape. How on earth did she end up so overweight while barely managing to stand? Was it a condition or something more insidious? She filed the thought away. New name, new life. She could accept that and the challenge. She had just returned to the ward when a doctor entered, flipping through her file all business. "Valentina?" She straightened. "Yes, that's me," she said, her clarity and self-possession evident even in this new voice. "You've..." Meanwhile, at the Felton estate in Biddeford, silence blanketed a refined study. A man in a sharp black suit watched somberly, his arms crossed, the shadows beneath his eyes betraying his exhaustion. News footage of Victoria's demise filled his computer screen. He closed his eyes for a long breath and whispered, "What a waste." He had chased legends and rumors, searching every dark lane for the only person who might save his ailing father, the famed medical prodigy, Victoria. Now she was gone, just as he'd nearly found her. The screen faded to black. His disappointment was inescapable as he gazed out the window, hands tucked deep into his pockets, regret etching deeper lines onto his face. Just one more step, and he would have secured Victoria's help. He let the silence settle, a deep ache filling his eyes. Destiny, he thought with a pitiless smile, always has the last word, Mapleville. Valentina spent the night in the hospital. By morning, Selena stood over her with a scowl announcing, Hospitals cost a fortune, and your school barely paid us anything. Staying here any longer is just wasting money. Get up, pack your things, and go home." She tossed clothes onto the bed with a look of open contempt. "I told you to eat less. Look at yourself. You're as tubby as ever." Valentina sat there, unmoving, fixing Selena with a cold stare. The sight of Valentina's eyes sent a chill through Selena. Exasperated, she snapped, "What are you gawking at?" "I haven't got all day. Either get changed and leave now, or I'm heading straight to work myself." It unsettled her. Ever since Valentina's accident, something about her daughter's eyes seemed terrifying. Or was it just her imagination? "Hurry up! If you keep dragging your feet, I'll be late and get docked pay," Selena barked, slamming the door as she went. Valentina exhaled slowly. Since Selena was technically the original Valentina's mother, she chose to bear it, for now. As soon as they stepped outside, Selena fished 2 coins from her pocket and tossed them to Valentina. "Take the bus yourself. I need to get to work." Without another word, she climbed onto her electric bike and sped away. Valentina turned the coins over in her hand, an eyebrow raised. Using the original Valentina's memories, she found her way onto the right bus for home. Home wasn't much, a cramped, neglected shack wedged in the heart of the city. As soon as Valentina stepped inside, a girl with sharp features and a mean mouth jeered from the doorway. "Look who's back, the bloated pig herself. You managed to trip just walking. Shame you didn't break your neck this time," she spat. "Guess that layer of blubber saved you, huh? Keep stuffing your face, maybe someday you'll roll down the street instead." "Diana Ricardo," a sharp, angry shout echoed from inside. Valentina looked up to see a handsome boy in a blue school uniform striding out. His left foot dragged as he limped, but his gaze blazed with irritation. Facing Diana, he snapped, "Enough already. Do you really need an audience every time you run your mouth?" Diana folded her arms, scoffing, trying to play the hero again. "Maybe you like calling her your sister, but I'd rather have nothing than a mess like her." She looked every inch her mother's daughter, sharp bit of tongue and all. Valentina ignored her and headed straight for her room. The boy trailed her, silent. Halfway down the hall, Valentina stopped and glanced back, a cold, steady gaze. He looked back at her, hesitating a moment when his eyes caught on the bandage at her hairline, before silently offering her a sandwich. He clung to his faded backpack strap and left for school without a word. Valentina took the sandwich and quirked a faint smile. August Ricardo was nothing like their mother. In this crumbling family, its 3 children had turned out startlingly different. Interesting, she thought. She retreated to her tiny room and slept until dusk, only to be rousted by Diana's screeching voice. "Pig, all you do is sleep. Are you waiting for me to spoon-feed you? Drag yourself up before you starve." "Seriously, all you're good for is eating and sleeping. You ought to have been born a pig. Maybe next time." Valentina rolled over, red shadows cast from sleepless eyes flashing with faint menace. Diana faltered when she noticed the change in Valentina's gaze and muttered a few curses as she slunk away. Valentina's eyes narrowed. Despite being the younger sister, Diana had made the original Valentina's life a misery, tormenting her with gleeful cruelty whenever she could. Selena always pretended not to notice. George, timid and powerless, was no match for his wife or daughter. Thinking back through the original Valentina's suffering, something cold flickered in Valentina's eyes. She thought, I'll help settle these scores, for the sake of the girl who let me walk in her skin. Supper found George setting the table in the tiny, battered living room. This space, just barely 30 square meters, overflowed with cardboard boxes. The walls were cracked, the floor so grimy you could barely make out its linoleum pattern. George smiled weakly. Val, good morning. Wash up and come sit down. At the small, red lacquered table, so chewed by age and woodworms that nearly collapsed, August already sat with head bowed, silent. As Valentina neared, August moved aside helplessly to create room. George heaped rice on Valentina's plate. Are you feeling better? Eat more. We can't afford any more hospital visits, so you'll need to rest at home for a bit. The school gave you a leave. Diana sucked her teeth. Why bother sending her to school anyway? Her grades are shameful. Diana! Mind what you say. She's still your sister, George chided. Diana whipped her head away. Some sister. I don't need that embarrassment dragging my name down. You... Selena cut George off with a shrill clatter of her fork against porcelain. George, why do you defend her? Diana's point stands. Just talking about Valentina's grades makes me want to hide. And now I find out she's sneaking around with boys at her school, flaunting her humiliations right in front of us. Her voice rose, years of frustrations flooding out. And you? I must have lost my senses marrying such a dead loss as you. All your brothers started out worse, but look at them now, driving luxury cars, living in penthouses. Meanwhile, you're content scrapping for the junk they throw away. It's pathetic. She glared, voice tight with venom. Do you have any idea how the neighbors laugh behind my back? It's no wonder our only son ended up like this. If I'd known this was my fate, I would have rather died than married you. By now, George was beet red, reduced to sullen silence. August and Diana just picked quietly at their bowls, as if all this chaos was nothing new. Still, Valentina noticed August's knuckles clenching white at the mention of cripple. Unbothered, Valentina finished a few perfunctory bites, stood and turned on the TV in the corner. Diana, as ever, quickly pounced. Real nice. Try to ignore the family breaking apart because of you. Hope the reruns are worth it. Valentina said nothing, just met Diana's gaze with an impassive, cold flare that suggested warning. Startled by the threatening glint, Diana wrapped her arms around herself, bristling. Why are you giving me that look? Did I say something untrue? Something was different. Ever since Valentina came back from the hospital, she carried herself with a defiance that only intensified by the hour. Timid and helpless? Not anymore. Had that fall scrambled her brains? Diana wasn't sure she liked the answer. Seeing what was happening, Selena immediately snapped at Valentina. You brat! How dare you pick on your sister? Get over here and clean the table. Wash the dishes now. Her voice trembled with resentment. If it weren't for you, I never would have married your father. You destroyed my life. Just looking at you annoys me. Valentina's eyes narrowed, coldness swirling beneath her lashes. Arguing with people beneath her, pointless, absolutely pointless. She wouldn't bother with these small-minded women. She turned her gaze to the television, where the news continued playing. Footage showed a remote Pacific island, the aftermath of an explosion. Among the charred ruins, the cameras paused on a faceless female corpse, surrounded by police and coroners performing an autopsy. Expressionless, Valentina turned the TV off and walked out, heading for her room. "Oh, what? Lost your appetite?" Diana's voice dripped poison. "You usually shove down 3 plates. Why not digging in today, Val? Are you going to lose that fabulous piggy figure if you skip a meal?" Selena glared at her, hissing, "Didn't I tell you to do the dishes? Are you standing around being lazy? Do you want a taste of my belt?" George's forehead furrowed with worry. "Val's got an injury. Can't you let her rest for once? Why can't August and Diana do the dishes tonight?" Diana recoiled indignantly. "No way. I have never washed dishes. Besides, her injury is on her head, not her hands. No reason she can't do it." Selena piled on. "Diana needs to study. She's always at the top of her class, shooting for one of those fancy universities, you know?" She curled her lip, looking Valentina up and down. "Grades like Diana's are about all our family can brag about at Christmas. Her hands were made for holding a pen, not scrubbing plates." Diana cast a triumphant glance at Valentina, smugness all over her face. Valentina pressed her lips together, staring at Selena with thinly veiled hostility. Her patience, never legendary to begin with, was being tested. After years spent as an assassin, she had learned to split love and hate with icy logic. She didn't bring mercy to those who didn't deserve it. She'd given Selena and Diana more chances than they deserved. One more offense. She wasn't sure she could keep from snapping their necks with bare hands. "Enough! I'll wash them." August's voice cut through the tension as he quietly collected the dishes and trudged to the kitchen. Selena immediately switched her tone, guilt flickering across her face. "Oh, I can't let you do that, August. Just leave it there, just leave it there. Valentina will handle it." Valentina let out a cold, almost inaudible scoff. This was just standard for the Valentina who belonged in this house. An absent father, a hostile mother, a little sister who bullied whenever she pleased. The only halfway decent soul here was August. He ignored everyone and got on with the job, washing up in resigned silence. Diana just rolled her eyes and flounced off. "I'm going to do my homework," she snapped, vanishing into her bedroom, unaware she'd come closer to death just now than she'd ever realized. Selena shot Valentina one last dirty look before stalking into the kitchen, shoving August aside and grumbling bitterly as she washed the dishes herself. Only after that did Valentina let the murderous glint in her eyes soften. She decided to step out for some air. The Ricardo family's house was an old, sprawling single-story leftover from a previous era. Not exactly pretty, but plenty roomy if a bit worn around the edges. Out front, a large courtyard was walled off, alive with a rose bush that had survived many seasons. Several empty side rooms lined the property. Once, George and his brothers stayed there, but after making their fortunes, they'd all scooped up nicer homes and disappeared. No wonder Selena was so bitter. Everyone ran from being the poorest, yet that's exactly what they were, the Ricardos left behind. As she glanced toward the hallway, Valentina caught sight of August limping back from the kitchen towards his bedroom. She hesitated for a breath, then quietly followed him. August sat at his child-sized desk and opened his workbook, a thick sheaf of math problems he'd copied off the internet. Advanced stuff. He'd been stuck for days, and nothing was adding up. Can't figure it out? Valentina lounged in the doorway, brow cocked. Startled, August spun around to see his older sister, her massive silhouette blocking half the light from the corridor, an amused spark in her eyes. There was something different about her. He thought attention and alertness. She took a few idle steps forward. Don't know how to solve them? For a moment, August just stared, embarrassed, or maybe suspicious, before he offered, "These are this year's International Math Olympiad final questions. Only a few people on the planet could do them." Valentina just gave a half smile, swept up a pen, and bent over his scratch pad. Her next few moments were silent but swift. The draft paper grew dense and filled an entire page. That's it. She capped the pen and flicked it onto the desk, meeting August's stunned look with a lazy arch of eyebrow. He bowed over the page in disbelief. Every step laid out clearly. She'd filled out the pieces he'd circled in red, answering all the sections that had stumped him. Fingers trembling, he grabbed his phone and typed the answers in online just to check. Not only were they right, they were even breezier, more decisive than the official solutions. Staring at her work, August tried to accept it. How did you get the answer?" Valentina looked at him with clinical seriousness. "With my own hands." August blinked, mouth half open. "But this is the final from the International Math Olympiad." She flashed him a cool look. "Is that all?" "Frankly, whoever wrote these, it's very ordinary work." August let that settle. He knew who the question setter was, a renowned math genius. And yet, the sister who never scraped above 20 on a test, let alone solved the last question, had called it ordinary? "Val, be honest." He pressed, suspicion taking over. "Did you look up the answers beforehand?" "You never solve even the easiest questions on tests." Valentina just lifted her chin, almost bored. "A trivial question. I could have answered it with my eyes closed." He gawked at her, equal parts skeptical and desperate. "So you've been pretending this whole time?" "I don't believe it," he murmured, already rifling through his phone for last year's Olympia problems. "If you can do this one too, I'll believe you." Valentina accepted the phone, eyes skimming the challenge. She stood silent. His hope wilted. As expected, a fluke. How could there be a genius hidden right before his eyes? Only then did he hear her quiet, unhurried voice. "The answer is, the equation of the surface is z equals s squared plus y squared." "What?" August sat up, heart thumping, and tapped quickly to check. There it was online, the answer exactly as she said. 2 whole printed pages for the proper solution, and she drilled straight to the heart. Did that mean his seemingly clueless sister did the calculations in her mind? What kind of brain was even capable of that? Superhuman didn't begin to describe it. Had she gotten bad grades all along simply because these questions were child's play for her, just something so simple it didn't even matter? Anything else you're stuck on? Valentina arched an eyebrow at August, who, out of the entire family, was the only one she found even remotely agreeable. If he wanted to improve himself, she wouldn't turn her back on him. Snapping out of his daze, August studied her. "You're so smart, so why do you deliberately bomb every test?" "I just don't want to attract attention," Valentina replied, voice light and indifferent. "Then, what about the SAT? Are you going to keep this up?" August pressed, anxiety creeping into his tone. "No," Valentina's eyes narrowed, her expression unfazed. Legendary assassin, this was what she'd been in her previous life. In the realm of shadows, she was myth made flesh. Now, reborn in this neglected and derided shell, how could she just accept her fate? It wasn't in her nature to submit. She had always made others yield. The SAT? She would use her results to silence every condemning voice. August blinked at the sharp confidence in her eyes. The change was almost impossible for him to grasp. How could his waste of space sister suddenly turn into a prodigy? Valentina turned to leave. All right, you get back to studying. I'm heading to my room. Wait, August called after her, pulling a candy from his pocket. You skipped dinner. Have this so your blood sugar doesn't drop. Stunned, Valentina looked down at the candy, speechless for a heartbeat. She'd grown up surrounded by bloodshed and chaos, always alone. No one ever looked out for her. Not like this. After a quiet moment, she took the candy. Thanks. August hesitated, then blurted out, Actually, if you lost some weight, you'd look amazing. Those jerks who talk behind your back, they'll shut up for good. Valentina regarded him, a flicker of intrigue lighting in her gaze. This little brother was more interesting than she'd thought. I don't bother with them. I won't waste my breath. Her tone was even, unbothered, eyes glinting coldly. But everyone's got a limit. If they cross it again, I promise I'll hit back, and I won't hold back on anyone who tries to push me around. August felt a chill in her calm voice, like thunder before a storm. He realized the injuries she suffered this time didn't break her. They'd awoken her spirit. Maybe fortunes really did come disguised. And off. Valentina gave a jade nod and, pausing on her way out, glanced at his leg. It was nothing serious. A bit of rest and care would do. In her own grimy little room, Valentina lay on her narrow bed, sucking on the candy and staring up at the cobwebs sprawled across the ceiling. Her brows furrowed. She'd grown up wading through carnage and luxury alike, her childhood's surroundings always spotless, her every need lavishly met. This broken-down hovel, this was a first. She'd gained prestige and infamy at a young age, every mission earning her enough for a year's company profits. Being an assassin was just one hat she wore. Wealth was a byproduct, an afterthought. But with Victoria's death, all her wealth might as well have been buried with her. No matter. Earning money had always been child's play for her. For now, the most urgent task was dropping the weight. A perfectionist at her core, she couldn't accept any imperfection, not when it came to herself. After 2 days of rest, she slipped out at dawn for morning runs, pushing her body with combat drills in the afternoons. But this vessel was soft. Half an hour in, she'd be panting for breath. It irritated her. On the third day after her daily run, Valentina showered, pulled on her ill-fitting school uniform, and got ready to leave, only to spot August outside the door waiting. If memory served, this was the first time he'd ever waited for her. Let's go. He tried to mask his bashfulness, adding together. Other words failed him, and he strode out ahead. For the past 2 days, August would shove armfuls of quirky questions into her hands after class. Valentina breezed through them, her solutions effortless. August was convinced her past airheadedness had been totally fake. She was a genius deep in hiding, purposely hanging at the bottom of the class, trying not to make waves. Though sometimes, he caught himself wondering if maybe, just maybe, hitting her head had flipped her switch. The world held stranger things. Valentina slung her backpack carelessly over one shoulder and strolled after him, hands deep in her pockets. What do you want for breakfast? He asked over his shoulder. Sandwiches. We can grab some at the bus stop, August suggested, then hesitated. I haven't got any cash today. Have no money, Valentina said bluntly. Translation, you're buying. August thought for a moment, then offered, Mom gave me, well, us, $5. What filling do you want? Valentina arched one brow. Selena hadn't even bothered with breakfast money for her? Just plain bread's fine. It's cheap, keeps me full, she said. August nodded, then shot her a glance. You've been heading out to run every morning. Are you seriously committed to losing weight? Yeah. She didn't bother expanding on a simple truth. Looking at her clearly, August said honestly, You'll be really beautiful when you slim down more. Valentina's mouth curled in a wicked little grin, spark in her eyes. August ducked away, cheeks burning. He really was rather cute, she had to admit with amusement. They reached the school and parted ways at the main entrance. In her new grades teaching building, Valentina watched clusters of students in uniform, the rowdy shouting, jokes, and private laughter, utterly alien to her. Raised in an organization's cold discipline, she'd never set foot in a regular school. This scene was strange beyond measure. As Valentina stepped into the classroom, rowdy chatter died in an instant, all her classmates turning to stare as if she'd walked in carrying a live explosive. Why did that tubby cow come back so soon? Didn't she nearly break her neck with that fall? She's too thick-skinned to go down that easily. Lucky the stairs weren't cracked with her landing on them. I heard she saw the school charmer, freaked out, and her knees gave way. No way. Shouldn't her heart throb ask for emotional damages or something? Hey, did you see? That fatty actually put her hair up doesn't look quite as awful as normal. You call that good looking? Your taste is dreadful. The snickers and jeers in the classroom grew louder, each jab harsher than the last. Valentina stood her ground, her gaze sweeping coolly over the sneering faces, catching their smirks and malicious glee. These were the same faces that for months had snatched away every last shred of the original Valentina's dignity. The school's established bullies. She wasn't going to let any of that slide. No, she would make them repay every single thing they owed. For a heartbeat, the noisy classroom held perfectly still. Sheer chill and menace radiating from Valentina's eyes stunned them into silence. Jittery grins froze, replaced by sudden, uneasy fear. Why did this nobody suddenly feel so dangerous? Wasn't she supposed to be Valentina, the class pushover? Before nerves settled, Valentina dropped her gaze, brushed past them without a glance, and returned to her desk. Her books lay mangled and dirt-streaked, their pages torn and covers smeared. Not letting it rile her, Valentina quietly stuffed them away and laid her head down, brushing off trouble with cold disinterest. When morning reading finished, the dismissal bell cut through the stifled snickering. Valentina finally lifted her head, bloodshot twining in her stubborn eyes, a trace proud, wholly unyielding. Ignoring sullen scowls, she shouldered past classmates and headed directly for the restroom. The stall door shut behind her with a hollow click and, moments later, snapped again, locked on the outside. Laughter floated from the other side. She thinks she's got moves? After drooling over the heartthrob, trying to act cute. Pathetic. Let's give her something to remember. Get that filthy mop water, douse the cow, see if she still thinks she's someone. Hurry up, dump it all at once. Crash! With filthy water splashing everywhere, the stall door exploded open with a bang. Two girls on a stool, ready to tip the bucket, toppled straight down. Smothered by the mess, they shrieked as sludge soaked their uniforms, shock flashing across their faces as they hit the tile. Three girls watching from behind slipped and collided, squealing as panic and chaos echoed inside the tiled room. Only Valentina emerged untouched, stepping calmly from the wrecked stall, one hand tucked in her pocket, her stare chilling. No nerves, not a drop of pity. Her gaze roved over to the lone figure at the entrance, Eudora Katrine, the reigning campus beauty. In the corner of one eye, she caught sight of Diana lingering behind Eudora, frozen in horror. Diana blinked once and bolted, eyes wide, like she was running from the devil himself. Coward, Valentina thought with a ghost of a smirk. Rolling her eyes, she shifted focus back to Eudora and stepped forward. Face pale with shock, Eudora stood rooted to the spot. She'd orchestrated all these years of bullying. Never once had Valentina fought back. But now, Valentina advanced with a slow, measured stride, every step sinking heartbeats faster. Her eyes were like glass, icy, bottomless, blank, except for endless contempt. Eudora stumbled backwards, fear building as she retreated. No escape. The wall blocked her path. What? What are you doing? Valentina snatched Eudora's slender throat, fingers curling and grasping mercilessly, making her choke. A tiny, helpless gurgle left Eudora's lips as her face turned ashen. Valentina's cold gaze pierced through her. Consider this your only warning. If you ever do this again, I won't be so civil, she hissed, enunciating each word. With a flick, she released Eudora, sending her tumbling to the floor, coughing and clawing at her neck. Valentina sauntered to the sink, washed her hands with apathetic ease, while the semicircle of girls only watched, none daring even to move. Eudora hunched on the ground, hand pressed to her throat, eyes wide with trembling shock. She had seen something wild and merciless in Valentina's gaze, no softness left behind. Why? How had bland, gutless Valentina become so petrifying overnight? I'll get you back for this. Eudora spat, voice shaking with bitterness and rage. As Valentina was about to re-enter the classroom, August appeared at a run, concern stamped on every inch of his face. Val, are you all right? She lifted an eyebrow. Why wouldn't I be? Trouble in the restroom again? You're sure you're okay? They didn't corner you? She shrugged, faintly amused. They're the ones biting off more than they can chew, not me. August's worry brought a faint blush to her cheeks, just a sliver. By now, several boys at the classroom entrance were watching, hissing with glee. Pigface and the cripple! It's like a bad romance. Valentina straightened and pinned them with the glare. Several boys loitered just outside the other classroom. One of them was Byron Augustine, the supposed school heartthrob, subject of the old Valentina's secret crush. At a glance, Valentina frowned in disappointment. So much fuss over him. August was much better looking. If only his legs were well, wouldn't he leave Byron in the dust? A voice sliced through the air. Hey, Byron, can you believe this chunk dared like you? Where'd she get so much nerve? She probably dreams she's got a chance. Byron's expression soured as he noticed her disbelief. That's enough. Cut it out. The instigator ignored him, yelling to August, Go limp back to your own seat, loser. Color rose in August's cheeks. His fists clenched tight, words stuck behind tight lips. Bored of the heckling, the boy rolled his eyes and turned, but didn't see Valentina advance behind him. A silent, heavy hand clamped down on his collar, jerking him flat against the wall. A howl burst from him as pain and embarrassment tangled up. He twisted but couldn't break her grip. Even as sweat slips down his face in panic. "Let go! You mental cow, let go! What do you want?" She barely blinked, voice steeled and grave. "Apologize." "To hell with that! You heard me! Just get your porky hands off!" Valentina's grip tightened. "Apologize. Now." Her look was murderous, cold as a predator in moonlight. The room held its breath, even Byron's composure visibly cracked. "Enough!" he forced out, jaw tight. "Let him go, Valentina! Don't drag this out!" She didn't flinch, didn't even look his way. "But ow, Byron. Unless you want the same, keep walking." A shocked gasp swept across the group. Was this the same Valentina who trailed after Byron like a shadow for years? Now she dismissed him like nothing? Red-faced, Byron scowled but stepped aside. Valentina's patience ran out. She hoisted the boy clean off his toes. Hysteria flickered in his eyes. At last, a half-whimper, he spat out, all right, I'm sorry." She shoved him off. "If I hear you say cripple again, you'll find out exactly how it feels. Now, get out of my sight." Clutching his neck, humiliated, he shot her one last poisonous look and bolted. Byron, scowling, signaled him to follow as the school bell rang. They stalked back inside, leaving only aftermath. Valentina rounded on August, still white with incredulity. "Are you just going to stand there or what?" Earth to August. "Are you stunned by my performance?" Startled, August cleared his throat. "Val, don't you like Byron?" Valentina nearly laughed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "Who, him? Don't joke. Never in my life. Whoever made up that rumor is full of it." Inside the classroom, Byron froze on the threshold, caught off guard by the words. Byron's brows drew together in irritation. What on earth was that wily Valentina up to now, trying to catch his attention? Heh! He'd sooner dig his own grave than ever give that girl a second thought. Class ended quickly. As soon as the bell rang, a swarm of boys surrounded August. "Hey, August," one jeered. "That fat girl in Class 8, is she seriously your sister? Why were you sneaking around about it?" "Yeah, isn't your family flat broke? So how does your sister even manage to eat so much, huh?" "If you had money, wouldn't your parents have fixed your leg by now, instead of letting you limp around like that?" August sat there with his head bowed, fist clenched so tightly his knuckles went white. "I also heard your sister's always dead last on exams," another chimed in. "She barely scraped together 20 points in maths. Is that true?" "Geez, August. If she's that stupid, maybe something's wrong in her head." Suddenly, August snapped his head up, eyes blazing. "Don't talk about my sister that way. She's not stupid. She's actually smart." "Please. Ranking last every time? If she isn't slow, then what is she?" "Even a blind guess could get you better. Am I right?" August's whole face burned with shame and fury. He longed to defend Valentina, but the words caught in his throat. Grade 3, Class 8. Valentina slouched at her desk, deep in thought. "No money. No phone. It felt like even simple things were a mountain to climb. She needed to find a way to make cash, enough for a phone at least. Idea after idea flitted through her mind, but each one tripped over the law's boundary. She let out a long sigh. How irritating. At the front, the teacher caught sight of Valentina slumping and instantly stiffened with annoyance. Valentina, is there any reason you must distract us today? Valentina barely reacted, eyes hooded and expression unreadable. The teacher clapped the book closed, voice sharp. If you don't want to learn, maybe you should drop out. Stop dragging the rest of the class down. Valentina finally looked up, her bloodshot eyes hinting at defiance. Are you talking about me? A ripple of laughter swept through the room. Who else could it be? The teacher was barely holding back anger. Up front. Now, solve this equation. The whole class sat up straighter, waiting for Valentina's usual nervous mess when confronted at the board. But she just shrugged, stood, and walked calmly to the podium. Forget it, the teacher snapped. Why should we waste time watching you embarrass yourself? Return to your seat. But Valentina ignored her, chalk in hand already as she swiftly filled the board. The numerals danced in strong, brisk strokes, her handwriting clear, elegant, riveting. Nobody cared if she got the answer right. They couldn't stop staring at how beautiful her script had become. When she'd finished, Valentina walked back to her seat in silence. Stunned eyes followed her every step. Since when did she write like that? Was this even the Valentina they knew? The teacher stepped closer, peering through her glasses at Valentina's neat solution. She blinked. Not only was the handwriting impressive, the answer was flawless. Wasn't Valentina supposed to be hopeless at math? How the hell did she manage this question? Confusion wrinkled the teacher's brow, and she muttered under her breath, "Lucky guess, nothing more than a fluke." After school, Valentina assumed August would be waiting at the gate. But when she arrived, she found him limping away quietly, head low and shoulders rigid. Her gaze darkened slightly. She followed him without a word. One glance was enough to tell that August had faced the same kind of cruelty as she had inside those halls. Looking at his hurt, at its root, Valentina saw the answer was always the same: his leg. If only she had resources, just a little money and the right needles, she could fix him up in no time. She sighed inwardly. Not a single extra penny to her name. August, she called. He paused for a fleeting moment, but didn't turn to face her. Valentina arched a brow, feigning insouciance, and caught up pacing beside him. The two siblings stayed silent as they boarded the bus and rode the rest of the way home side by side. When they finally stepped off the bus, winding toward their crumbling neighborhood, August spoke first in a low, hesitant tone. Can you just take the SAT seriously this year? Valentina gave him a thoughtful look. Yeah, I will. She'd always excelled on exams, always attracted that warm glow of admiration, but today, the gazes she faced at school had nearly made her want to flip a desk. She couldn't go on living this way. As soon as she answered, some of the tension eased from August's hunched shoulders. He didn't say another word, just shuffled through the front door. At home, Valentina changed clothes and grabbed her running shoes. Where do you think you're going? Get in here and wash the dishes now. Selena's shrill command echoed from the kitchen. Stack upon stack of dirty dishes waited inside, left all day for Valentina's return and cleanup. She didn't even flinch, didn't offer so much as a word in reply. She strode outside. "You rotten brats! Are you deaf? I'm talking to you!" Selena fumed, voice brittle with anger. From his room, August came out silently and moved straight to the kitchen, rolling up his sleeves. Selena scurried in after him. "Don't, son. Leave it. I'll get that lazy girl to do it. Go back and rest. How could I let my boys scrub dishes?" But August just got to work like nobody else existed. Meanwhile, Valentina jogged off, putting the house and Selena's nagging firmly behind her. Night and morning runs, snatched exercise anytime she could, disciplined diet. Half a month went by, and the results showed. Her round face sharpened, her figure pared down. Even in a baggy school uniform, a new brightness softened her features. And with her meal card running near empty, skipping dinner worked to her advantage. She never bothered Selena for more money. She had no desire for another outburst. Days slipped by quickly. One evening, after another sweaty run and a good shower, Valentina sprawled on her bed, mind racing for ways to make cash. Suddenly, a strange thud echoed from outside the window. Instantly alert, she rolled quietly off the bed. All around was dense darkness, the slum's narrow lanes muffled and quiet. In the alley, a man in black stumbled by, clutching a blood-soaked wound in his gut, each step heavier than the last. He slumped behind a wall in desperate exhaustion, trying and failing to catch his breath. Those chasing him had momentarily lost his trail. He leaned hard against wet bricks and tried to stagger upright. A shadow fell across his face. Warily clearing half-blind eyes, the man tensed defensively. Valentina stood before him, giant moon rising behind her and bleaching his wavering silhouette stark white in the dark. His shirt stuck to him with viscous blood. He gasped, white-knuckled and slack-jawed like a dying fish. As Valentina studied his face, a memory tugged at her mind. Had they crossed paths before? "Leave, I'm warning you. Save yourself while you can." His tone was rough, equal parts threat and despair. Brows narrowing, Valentina's mood flickered with curiosity. In the next heartbeat, "Looks like that's a serious injury," she said coolly, barely flinching. "If you don't stop the bleeding, you'll pass out soon. Need help?" The man blinked, suspicion tainted with shock at her boldness. Footsteps thundered somewhere close, soldiers organized and purposeful. His whole face tensed, panic dawning. Turning half an ear to the sound, Valentina seized his hand, pulled a carbon pen from her pocket, and scribbled a series of numbers and symbols down his forearm. "Head that way, take the left, run straight to the end. There's a dog hole in the fence. You'll get out that way. If you survive, don't forget to transfer my consulting fee." He stared at her, stifled amusement mingling with disbelief. "If you stay, you won't have the chance to regret it," Valentina finished, utterly calm. The man fixed her with a weighted look, gripped his injury tighter, hopped the hazy courtyard wall, and vanished. He hadn't even disappeared into the shadows before a pack of men in black poured into the yard. Even in the gloom, Valentina recognized them. They lived off back-alley deals, just like her. But these men, they were still small time. Not ready for the league of real shadows. One man sneered at her, voice rough. "Hey, fatty, did you see an injured man pass through here?" Valentina squatted, pretending to dig lazily in the dirt, heart pounding only once before she regained total composure. The thick scent of roses masked almost everything, but underneath, coppery blood lurked. They exchanged wary glances. Their stares grew colder, more threatening. Valentina blinked rapidly, tongue poking the corner of her mouth, tugging an innocent, dull-witted expression onto her face. She pointed, wide-eyed, down another path. He went that way. Judging from her tone, they wrote her off as useless, maybe stupid. Without another word, they bolted in the direction she indicated. Valentina stood, wiped off the dirt, and left the stick behind. Back inside, she bolted the door and climbed into bed with a hint of a wicked grin. Now all she needed to do was wait for her bank account and luck to deliver.